All right, come on in, gather round, because you left hundreds and hundreds of comments on my first bad movies that I secretly love video, and I read every single one of them. Incognito, of course. Your guilty pleasures, your shameless favorites, the films that you're not supposed to love, but you do anyway. And somewhere in those comments, I realized I'm not done. Not even close. I have more bad films that are guilty pleasures, and I regret absolutely nothing. But this time, I've saved the most controversial pick for last. You have been warned. Now pop that tape in. I got you. Let's go do this. All right, so same rules as last time. These are not films I'm defending ironically. I genuinely love these movies, every single one of them. I'm not ashamed, and I am not apologizing. The sunglasses are back on. Incognito protocols are fully engaged. Let's go. All right, kicking us off at number 10, we're heading in the Wayback Machine to 1987. And Masters of the Universe. Dolph Lundgren as He-Man, a crazy Canon Films production and one of the most unsung villain performances in the history of fantasy cinema. Frank Langella as Skeletor, chewing through scenery like it was his job. Here is what I need you to understand about Frank Langella in this film. He's a classically trained Shakespearean actor who looked at this material, a live adaptation of a children's cartoon and toys, and decided to give it everything he had. Complete commitment, complete conviction, no irony. The result is a performance so genuinely menacing and extraordinary that it elevates every single scene he is in to something that has no business being as good as it is. Dolph Lundgren has the emotional range of a handsome piece of lumber. I mean, Stallone came to set and he's like, don't give that guy lines. The script is aggressively mediocre at best. The budget clearly ran out approximately a quarter of the way through the film. All of Eternia got shipped to Earth parking lots in exchange for fantasy sets. And Frank Langella, it's like you forgot to tell him all that stuff every time he came on screen. Masters of the Universe, I love completely. I could not wait to see it when I was a kid. Frank Langella deserved better, but I love this movie. It's got this Blu-ray. A 4K is coming, and I will buy it too, and I absolutely regret nothing. All right, we don't dip too far from 1987. We just jump on over a year to 1988 for Elvira, Mistress of the Dark. And I need to be transparent about something before this segment. Elvira, Cassandra Peterson, is one of the great pop culture icons of the late night horror hosting tradition that this channel and me celebrates completely in every single way. The persona she created, the bombshell horror hostess with the genuine wit, double entendres, and affection for B-movie cinemas, is something that I have an enormous personal love and respect for. So yes, I love this film, and I want to make a case that it deserves more than just my affection. My dad and I went and saw this at the theater at least twice. Elvira, Mistress of the Dark is a well-constructed comedy, a horror comedy. Peterson wrote it herself. She understood her own character more completely than anybody else was going to. The specific fish out of water thing that she created here, the premise, Elvira getting a house in an ultra-conservative New England town, that just gives the film a comic structure that sets itself up for one-liners, the satire of the small conservative propriety in a sharp, specific contrast to her boobs hanging out and all the horror imagery. Those horror comedy elements are done really well. Peterson's physical comedy and timing, the ridiculous 80s-ness of it all. Critics didn't bother to notice any of that. They dumped on it. I don't care. I had the Blu-ray. I bought the 4K. Elvira, Mistress of the Dark deserves to be in the conversation about the great horror comedies ever made, and I will defend that position and Elvira completely. All right, now the next one is one that I'm prepared to take a little heat on. I do not care, trust me. It is 2001's 13 Ghosts. Dark Castle Entertainment, Joel Silver, Robert Zemeckis both producing this, Steve Beck directing, in a film that has spent 20 years being dissed and dismissed as a glossy studio cheesy horror of the late 90s, early 2000s era. But let me tell you something about Dark Castle Entertainment first, because the context matters. In the late 1990s, Silver and Zemeckis created a production company with the specific mission of making low to mid, sometimes bigger budget remakes of classic William Castle horror films. And they wanted to do it with real craft and production value. So you got House on Haunted Hill, which I love. 13 Ghosts, I love it. It's here. Ghost Ship, Gothica, I love these movies, all of them. But critics destroyed, dismantled, and crapped on every single one of them. Horror purists dismissed them largely, every single one. Audiences weren't really crazy for them, but somehow they just kept showing up, doing well, selling well at the box office, selling well on video cassette, then DVD. Dark Castle kind of understood the assignment, and that was to ignore the hell out of the critics and the haters. These films were never meant to be high art. They were just trying to be entertaining horror films. And 13 Ghosts is fun. I mean, you have this family that inherits this house after the mother dies. You got Shannon Elizabeth from American Pie fame. You got Matthew Lillard from Scream fame. You have all this stuff going for it. Tony Shalhoub. And you have a big haunted house movie with great practical ghosts in this. All the makeup, now there's effects done digitally, but the makeup is done practically, and that is absolutely awesome. The plot mechanics may be clunky, you might be able to see them coming, but pure horror, pure ghosts. I mean, this thing sets up like a haunted house ride that you are going through, and I absolutely love it. The monster designs are next level. There is no way to deny that, and they weren't done digitally. Those are real makeup effects, and you got to give the nod to that. I love this movie. It is awesome. It is a fun ride, and I will fight for it anytime I get a chance. 13 Ghosts. All right, back in 1987 again, I just have one thing to tell you. It's garbage day. That's right, we got to go to Silent Night, Deadly Night 2, Garbage Day. I had to say it. You knew it was coming. Let me get it out of the way. Silent Night, Deadly Night 2 is a film that recycled approximately 40 minutes of the original movie, not as a recap, but as actual footage. You don't need to see the original, really. You can just watch this one. And then its second act produced something completely and absolutely unhinged that became one of the great horror cult films of the decade. You got Eric Freeman as Rick, a brother of the serial killer from the original, delivering performances that's so over the top, so completely committed to the emotional excess in every word. Ricky is absolutely nuts, and it transcends his bad acting, something that is fascinating to watch. The eyebrows alone in this movie are doing some heavy lifting, but the genius of the film goes beyond the memes, the clips, the recycled footage. Silent Night, Deadly Night 2 is entertaining, and it is a fun and violent horror film, a sequel, and that was harder to get in this era. That was actually fun, particularly from a low-budget, controversial original film. In whatever direction it was committed to, it was fun. There is a certain joy that you're going to get when you're watching something that is completely wrong, batshit crazy, and off the rails, and that's exactly what great, bad movies do. That's what this format in VHS back in the day existed for. Films like Silent Night, Deadly Night 2, Garbage Day. I regret nothing. All right, we're going to go to 1991 for maybe the most star-studded cast, believe it or not, in this list, and that is Nothing But Trouble. And when I say star-studded cast, you're talking Chevy Chase, Dan Aykroyd, John Candy, Demi Moore, but you also got a young Tupac in here because you've got Digital Underground making an appearance in this thing. This was Tupac Shakur's first film appearance. Nothing But Trouble is one of the strangest studio movies ever made. Another horror comedy that's sort of a road movie about a couple who are driving through a decaying sort of New Jersey town presided over by a 106-year-old judge, old Dick knows himself, Dan Aykroyd, who is most genuinely disturbing with that makeup on. It is hilarious to look at the entire time, and his family is batshit crazy nuts. And here's the thing about Nothing But Trouble that is completely compelling to watch. Dan Aykroyd believed every single frame of this film. He's not making a bad film accidentally. He has this crazy, grotesque vision of a decayed, destroyed Americana with rotten mansions, carnival horror, all of this stuff right underneath. It's almost like if you gave David Lynch a horror comedy to do. That's kind of what it's like. The decay of the American dream right under the surface on the back roads of USA. And he pursues it with the complete conviction of a mega $1 million budget film. And it's kind of fun and crazy to watch. It's not a good movie in a conventional sense, and not even entertaining in a conventional sense, but there are ways that this is one of the most fun horror comedies you're ever going to watch, with a big cast doing everything they can to bring it to you. A fascinating creative disaster from 1991, and I love it for all its imperfections. All right, now number 5, we might have one of my sneaky sort of controversial takes here. This is 2004's Club Dread. And the reason I say that this is controversial, because I think this might be the best film that the Broken Lizard Club has done. And I know there's Super Troopers out there and everybody loves it, but Super Troopers wouldn't even be number 3 for me, because Beer Fest comes in right behind this one, in my opinion. And Club Dread is another fun horror comedy. It's something that is very hard to do correctly. It works simultaneously as a horror and as a raunchy sort of sex comedy. The mystery of the killer holds up to scrutiny. You've got 80s flair, and of course, you have the great late Bill Paxton as Coconut Pete, an aging Jimmy Buffett-style musician who founded this resort, and he has one of the single greatest performances in any Broken Lizard movie. I mean, you son of a bitch. This is a great... Yeah, I believe you are talking about Pina Coladaberg. That's what you're talking about. And Paxton commits to that, and it is so much fun. It's kind of pathetic and completely lovable. Club Dread kind of gets overlooked because audience wanted more Super Troopers, and they got Club Dread, and I think this is way better. The cast is fun, beautiful. You're on the beach setting. It deserved a much better reception. I think it's the best one they've done, with Beer Fest coming in second, and I'll stand behind Club Dread. All right, so we got to kick it back to the 80s with one that I've had people knock on, and I totally disagree. I don't think this one's even ironically a good, bad movie. I think it's just a solid film that people forgot about. It is The Golden Child with Eddie Murphy, and this is Eddie Murphy at the peak of his box office power. A supernatural comedy thriller. Again, this thing is right along the lines of Big Trouble and Little China. He is a man, sort of an anti-hero, kind of a goofy guy, but with the heart of gold, who is chosen to rescue a mystical Tibetan child who is the key to universal goodness. The Golden Child went on to make over $100 million at the box office in 1986. $100 million plus. That was a whole lot more money then, and yet somehow memory has reframed this film as a bad movie failure, as a misstep in Murphy's career that revealed the limits of his star power. And that nothing could be further from the truth. That was a lot of money then, particularly considering the budget was less than a fourth of that. So The Golden Child was technically a massive hit, a genuine blockbuster made by one of the most charismatic actors, one of my favorite actors, one of the best working in Hollywood, particularly at that time. Is it Beverly Hills Cop or Trading Places? No, it's Eddie Murphy basically doing Big Trouble in Little China with 80s Blue Lightning, the Devil, Sodom Noopsby, all of these. I mean, yeah, it's got some dated effects now, but they weren't dated then. And it was really considered a failure because it wasn't Coming to America. It wasn't Beverly Hills Cop. It wasn't Trading Places. But it was a big movie and a success. Supernatural stuff, a little raunch factor to it, scares, laughs, 80s Blue Lightning. What else do you want? I love The Golden Child. The facts support me on this one. It was a hit. All right, now we're going to go to one of my favorite directors of all time, Paul Verhoeven in 1995's Showgirls. Listen, Showgirls is not a bad film. I want to start right there. Showgirls is a misunderstood film. Specifically, it's a Paul Verhoeven satire that audiences and critics watched as a straight film and judged accordingly, and wrongly. Here's the evidence for that reading as a satire. RoboCop, Paul Verhoeven made RoboCop as a savage satire of corporate capitalism, America, violence in the media mainstream, and audiences watched it as a straight action film. It was both simultaneously. He did Starship Troopers. Verhoeven made that as a deliberate satire of propaganda and the military culture and all that specific language of fascism and cinema, and embedded that into a mainstream sci-fi action film. And most audiences watched it as a straight sci-fi action film, and critics dismissed it. It took years for the satirical reading to become like the dominant interpretation of that film. Showgirls follows the exact same pattern. Elizabeth Berkley's performance, which was universally criticized and as bad, is actually deliberately, in my opinion, excessive and over the top. The same way the performances in Starship Troopers are deliberately flat and propaganda coded. Verhoeven directed her to perform these lines in these scenes as excess, and that was the point. The film is satire on the entertainment industry and the exploitation of like female ambition and all of that. The way Vegas spectacle of it chews up people in their dreams and spits them back out, and very few arrive with the determination to get past that and succeed. So in my opinion, Verhoeven is holding up a mirror to the industry that operates exactly this way, and he's asking you to be uncomfortable enough to see it. But in subsequent interviews, Verhoeven has confirmed that this is how he meant it, that the film was ahead of its critical reception by approximately 20 years. I love Showgirls. You need to watch it with that mindset, and you will get a very different take on this film. It fits in perfectly in Verhoeven's career. He is one of my favorite directors, and I will defend that position from anyone. All right, let's kick it to the 2000s. Let's go 2012 with John Carter of Mars, or just John Carter, or what. That was part of the problem right there. You have a really ambitious, well-crafted science fiction adventure film that Disney spent $250 million making and marketing, which seems like nothing anymore, but it was a lot then. John Carter deserved so much better than it got. This film is actually good. Taylor Kitsch is good. This hurt his career, and he should have been a bigger star. The original title was John Carter of Mars. The of Mars is actually essential. It tells you immediately what kind of film this is. Disney removed it because they were nervous that the Mars titled thing would like be tied to a string of Mars set box office failures like Mission to Mars and Red Planet and things like that. As a result, this title told you nothing. John Carter, who the hell is John Carter? Why should I care? Disney spent all this money marketing this film and then generated zero curiosity. But the film itself is really good. Kitsch is compelling. He really should have had a better career. The world building in this is ambitious. The setting just after the Civil War here on Earth and then transported to Mars. It is so cool. The source material was there. It should have been so much better. We should have gotten sequels, all that went along with it. And because of bad marketing and bad timing, John Carter just never got there. But there's nothing bad about this film. It is a fun sci-fi adventure, and I'll stand by it. All right, let's get ready here. Let's shake it out because I'm ready to fight and defend on this one. We go to 2008's Indiana Jones and the Kingdom of the Crystal Skull. And I know exactly what you're about to say. The fridge, the monkeys, the gophers, the crystal skull itself, Shia LaBeouf, the CGI, the aliens, blah, 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 blah. I know all of it. I've heard all of it, and I'm going to make my case anyway, because Indiana Jones and the Kingdom of the Crystal Skull is a good film. No, it's not a great film. It's not Raiders of the Lost Ark. It's not The Last Crusade. But if you're being judged against that, it's pretty much impossible to succeed. And here is my specific argument on this as a massive indie fan, as a massive Steven Spielberg fan. Listen, this film goes right along with Steven Spielberg. He has a lifelong creative obsession with Alien and Alien Contact, Close Encounters of the Third Kind, E.T. He's now doing Disclosure Day. His vision of alien intelligence is something vast and unknowable, but ultimately benevolent, is one of the most consistent and personal themes of his entire career. Crystal Skull combines Spielberg combining that obsession with his Indiana Jones adventure universe, not as a betrayal of what Indiana Jones is, but as an extension of it. The supernatural MacGuffins of the previous films in Raiders of the Lost Ark, all that, the stones, the Holy Grail, are all extraordinary artifacts from human religious tradition and history. Crystal Skull's MacGuffin is an extraordinary non-human thing that is logic and completely consistent within this universe, particularly since we do know there are real crystal skulls that have been found. So the aliens, the interdimensional beings, whatever you want to call them, are Spielberg's close encounter aliens wearing Indiana Jones movie costumes. This is not a failure of imagination. It's a filmmaker returning to what he genuinely believes in, and he's going to do it again with Disclosure Day and giving a new context to it. The fridge, yes, a man who survives a nuclear blast in a lead-lined refrigerator is scientifically absurd, though he's way on the edge of it. I don't know. They got within a viewing distance of these things too, and we're in a bunker. So yeah, but is that any more disbelievable than a 700-year-old knight that walks out into the desert and dies? I mean, from a faith-based, I would believe that, but this is a movie, it's not a documentary. So maybe the fridge is excessive, whatever. Maybe you don't like Shia LaBeouf. Maybe he's a weak element in the film. They were trying to set him up, and he was very popular at the time. But the jungle chase scene is classic Spielberg. The South American opening sequence is classic Indiana Jones. All of that, and bringing Marion Ravenwood back 27 years later. This movie is a fun adventure that is got Spielberg and Indiana Jones coded all over it. It gave us back one of the greatest cinematic characters to ever live, and it was fun to watch. Now, the next one, not so much. But this one, I love, and I regret nothing about it. It's fun, and I'll defend it. So there you go, 10 more films, 0 new regrets. Masters of the Universe, Elvira, 13 Ghosts, Silent Night, Deadly Night 2, Garbage Day, Nothing But Trouble, Club Dread, The Golden Child, Showgirls, John Carter, Crystal Skull, now it's your turn. Drop some of your guilty pleasure favorites in the comments below. The film that you love, or films that you love that you're not supposed to. The ones that you have to reach for your sunglasses and go into incognito mode before you admit, because Volume 3 is being written by your comment section as we go, and I am absolutely eventually going to do a Volume 3 because I love a lot of bad movies, apparently. And if you do too, like and subscribe. It really helps out the channel. Hit the hype button. Apparently that helps. Hitting the damn bell so that you don't miss anything also apparently helps. And if you want to help support what we're doing here a little bit more, we are on a mission to get to 100,000 subscribers by the end of 2026. A lofty goal, but one you can bring me. If you want to help a little bit more, you can join my Patreon. The link is in the description of every video. You'll get your name and lights on every video, behind the scenes looks at my filmmaking, physical media reviews, and so much more, and everything helps the channel, and I really do appreciate it. But until next time, be kind, rewind like always. This is Chase with AV Pop Culture, and I'll see you real soon. Bye-bye. I know.